This week's channeled message from the angels is about humanity's relationship to non-planetary beings or interdimensional beings. And this is not my usual lane. I don't do a lot of messages about this. But it's a really interesting message, and it's especially important, I think, for those of you who count those beings among your guides, who feel like you're very, very connected to those beings. So welcome back to my channel, you guys. It is great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me. For those of you who are new, I want to welcome you. My name is Ann Tucker. I'm a trance channel, and I channel from the angelic realm. And the way I do that is I raise my awareness up as high as I can go. I go into a deep meditative state, raise my awareness up. I go as high as I can. I stretch a little higher. I connect, and then the messages and healing come through me, and then I share that here with you guys on YouTube. So this message, like I said, is definitely a different one for me and not necessarily in my comfort zone. But I really felt called to share it. I had an experience before this message. I had an experience back when I was in Iceland. If you guys remember, I went to Iceland last year, in 2023. And while I was there, one afternoon we went to a crystal mine, which was really, really cool. There was crystals everywhere. Like the mountain was just full of them. So it was thick with it. Like you could literally walk on them. They were just on the ground, totally surrounding you. And I thought, well, this would be a really, really cool place to meditate. So I sat down and meditated. And as soon as I did, what popped into view immediately were these three beings. And I thought at first they were angels, but they didn't look like angels. They were not, they had clothes on, they were dressed, and they were tall and light and sort of fair, like angels are, the way I see angels. But these beings were, like I said, they had clothes on, they had different shapes. They looked different. So I didn't understand. I thought, they were something Icelandic, but they said, all they said to me is, "We three are staying here." And I didn't understand what that meant. Well, it turns out that is what this message is about, that there are beings who are here on this planet who will not be joining us in the shift of consciousness, that they will not be able to evolve in the same way that we do, that they won't be able to move with us through the state of consciousness into the new earth. So it's a long message, but I think very, very interesting and helpful, particularly, like I said, for those of you who do connect to these guides and for those of you who are just super curious. So, all right, I hope you guys enjoy it. So here's what they say. They say, amongst yourselves lives, to the endeavor of understanding, representatives from many times and places. Amongst yourselves they thrive in the times that are coming. There are within and among humanity many races of beings. All have come for the understanding of what is this ascension, this time of great displacement, where awareness seeps through into the new arrival of human consciousness. Awareness, its time and place is rising. It is coming into presence. The divinity speaks through you. In these times, the arrival of the many has been made like a truce between nations, a method and way for each kind to determine themselves a friend of humanity, a way for each to take part in your harmony, a way for each to embrace what is friendship between yourselves and their own origins. We speak to this now, to the understanding that this comprehensive shift places between them and yourselves a period of durable hardship. They have not the same rhythm of countenance that you contain. They do not have the same feeble memory of their ancestry. They have within them a knowingness of whence they came. You yourselves have this lacking. Do not have an understanding about where and how far and where from you have come to interpret this domain. They are experiencing the earth for the purpose of understanding yourselves. They are enduring the hardships of this time. They are living amongst, around, between, and within the earth, in realms seen and unknown, undisturbed. They are here, in and amongst yourselves, and often not seen. They are here to uncover the vastness of what is available on this plane of existence, to understand the beauty and the greatness of the experience of being here. Understanding the fruition of a soul within captivity, the captive embrace on a plane that forces itself upon an awareness in the interest of greater development. We speak to this dialogue between yourselves and they who are not from here, to the way in which you will separate in the near found separation, how you will feel yourselves not entirely in the same dimension, as though two planes shifted and you are within one and they the other. We say that the time frame of this becomes certain and is not far off. They will stay within the experience of what has been. They will remain. They will not come along. They are not found in the new frame of humanity. They do not belong there. They are incomplete in that realm. They must remain within the shell of what has been. This is because of how they incarnate. It is because of how they have tied themselves to this plane. They must stay within the realm and domain of what is heavy, of what is experience of life here now as it is occurring. They will stay within this scope and plane. They let it be revealed to yourselves, not often. They cannot journey in the same way. They cannot be made into new form like yourselves. They cannot reshape their consciousness while incarnated. They must stay within the framework created for themselves for this relationship to Earth as it has been. Upon their demise or removal from this plane, their shared understanding will shift and embodiment will take new form, and they become a new friend to the human. They become a new friend in permanence, but not while they remain within this earthly construct. For the time being, they must remain within the context of what they are and cannot reform into the newly defined realm that humanity strives to reach. Thus we say, for those of you who feel tied in permanence to these ancestral roots, who find themselves inured to the streams of consciousness that are coming through, who feel themselves growing distant from what is new earth, do not fear. Your time will be well spent. Your time here will be well worth the investment. You're here to serve yourselves and all beings, to draw into this realm the light of who you are, of your plane of experience, to draw to this earth the blessings of what is you, to let it be felt among those who cannot journey to the new realm, to stay within the realm that is you. We say this far-reaching experience of being on earth at this time of shift leaves with you an indeterminate focus point, without the knowledge of where you shall be placed, without the knowing of where you have purchase. We say, do not fear. Do not fear what arrives here. Do not fear your own journey. Know the paths may separate. There is this, and you are amongst those who are settled in friendship and will guard your journey, who will watch over you, who will ensure your passage is safely kept, who subscribe to the thoughts of your own purpose, and who lead you in the direction of the greatest benefit to yourself and to all you serve. There are those who journey on to the new passage, who will make way, part consciousness, and become what is separated from this journey, who will find within themselves the light of who they are and become this. They are staying in the frequency of the light and will remain as such for the duration of their journey. Know that this apparent separation takes place. Have the awareness of this in the knowing of your own soul. Some are here to hold and bear witness to the transition, to hold within themselves the great voyage you are becoming. They are here to yield a memory of this experience, to have and hold an understanding of what is in view. Who are these beings? And are they among you? Are they human? There are some who are in an embodiment that is familiar to yourselves, who take on form that is human. But the majority are not like that. They are whole unto themselves. They are separated from humanity in its current knowledge. They exist in the earth, around yourselves, nearby. They exist in this realm. They cannot journey onward. To know this, to know those who are deeply interacting with these realms, those who find fellow and friendship, whose genealogy is connected to these beings, may find and feel themselves separated in the trust that flows with them toward their own shift. They may feel they have left family, been left alone, as though quiet endeavors to encompass what has been their connection to guidance. We speak to them, to those who will fear the freedom they are seeking, who will find within their heart a diagnosis of themselves as further from home. We speak today to them to know that the separation is temporary. There will be those who come to earth as it will be known, but they must incarnate separately. They cannot evolve through the processes that you are enduring. They cannot move in the way and the capacity that you will experience. They are not of earth. They are not of her roots. They cannot feel her movement. You are this. You evolve as she does. They must expire in their lives they've chosen and reignite upon the surface at a time in the future to come again. The duration of the quiet that may be experienced by those who attune to these vibrations may be some time, even years. There may be a quieting of these conversations. It may be months. It is not known. For each individual with whom you are connected must journey onward and return to this plane as is their choosing in the new state of awareness. In the process of their arrival, they will come as they are, in greater friendship with humanity. There will not be the same divide that separates you from those you have known. There will be friendship among peoples of all races. Interplanetary beings become known. Thus, the times of interdimensional communion take on new form. Your own reality is shifting to be inclusive of those that come in friendship, who harbor the greatest gift of peaceful expression, of harmony between yourselves. An offering of wisdom and the means you are yearning for interdimensional access, for the understanding of what is earth and what is form. We bring to you this concept of separating in the time of connectivity. Separation has yet a home within the reality of this divergence. Know within your heart that homeward you are bound, despite the appearance of disconnect. Not all will feel the separation. Most will never know. Most will not feel the distance that has grown between yourselves and they who have offered their presence. They will become known in the new reality as they come into form in that time and space. And your reality is changed for the better by their presence. Okay, so there it is. We are talking about aliens and ETs and interplanetary beings and all that stuff I don't usually talk about. So, but yeah, you say, homeward I am bound. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, totally. So it's a super interesting message. And like I said, I felt called to share it. I always share what I get for you guys, because when I channel these messages, I specifically say, what is the message for Friday Live? They know it's for you when I channel it. But like, the reason I hesitate on these messages is because I don't like to share things that I like. I don't have any knowledge of this, like of this kind of stuff. Like as it comes through, I'm like, maybe, Like, maybe that's true. So it lands in me in a space where I guess personally, I'm just not there yet. Like I believe that there's life in other places. And I also believe that they will be coming. But this idea, like when it just gets to, there's some part of me that still just has a hard time wrapping my head around it. And so for some of you, I know you're like, that's crazy. Like, how can you channel angels and then have a problem with this? I don't know why. So I don't know why that is, but I do. So maybe that is why they came to me when I was in Iceland and I saw those three beings. And the reason I know it was connected to this message, because the one thing they said is they said, we three are staying here. We three are staying. And I didn't understand what that meant, but now I do. That those three beings that appeared to me in Iceland are what we would call, maybe they were interplanetary beings, maybe they were ETs of some sort. And they weren't in physical form. I saw them in meditation. They came to me in meditation. But basically what they're saying is they're not evolving into in this new shift of consciousness, that they will stay in the old vibration. So, and I think the message is important. And part of the time in the message, they're speaking to those beings. And some of them, they said, may be incarnated as humans. So there may be some humans that are beings of this nature that are in a physical human body that even though they're a very high vibration and that they probably could reincarnate into that new frequency, no problem, they can't while they're here on earth in a body because of the fact that their consciousness is not tied to the earth. And then they're also speaking to those of us who are connecting to these beings as guides. And I believe that there are probably many of us who are doing that. And it may not be your only guide. It may be one of your crew, right, that you connect to, who speaks to you. And they're saying those voices will become quiet, that we won't hear them anymore. So that I think is the reason why they wanted us to share the message, is because there's going to be some people who maybe this is one of the voices that you speak to. Maybe this is the primary voice, right? And then what happens if all of a sudden you're heading into the light, you're heading into this greater openness, this shift in consciousness, and then all of a sudden your guidance stops speaking to you. And what will happen? How will you feel in that moment, right? And so I think that's why they're sharing it. And I think it's good for us to know this, because many of you are healers or channels, and maybe you have clients that this will affect, right? So I think it's good to get it out there, to have the awareness, because I think it could be important. Clearly they think it's important, right? So, all right. And you guys are saying, where are we here? Here we are. You're saying, yes. And some of us are thinking, I will shift into the new earth or get left behind. Yes. And I think like they said in the message, that the majority of the beings of this nature that are here are not in human bodies, but some are. And so I think, like the angels say, that no one gets left behind, that they speak to everyone. So I think for those humans who may feel much more connected to these other beings than they do to being in part of humanity, then maybe you know who you are. Maybe you have that feeling inside. So, and if you feel like you're not coming along, maybe this is speaking to you, and to know that you will join into that new state of consciousness and on your next entry to Earth. Yeah. Krista says, this made me very emotional, like a family reunion that is very short. Oh, that does bring up feelings, definitely, doesn't it? Yeah. Teresa says, can't wait for the interpretation. I'm with you. Thank you, Teresa. I really appreciate it. And we will go through it and talk through all the meanings. Dashini says, maybe it is the awkward feeling we have when we think, and what may other humans think about me when I say this? Yeah, I think that is definitely part of it, is like, why do I fear what? It's not really fear that I feel about sharing the message. It's just that I think one of my things is wanting to always feel like I'm in my integrity. And when I feel a message, I feel a message as truth. And so I share it from the place of like, okay, this is a message, a channel message, but in my body, I feel aligned with this message. And this one, I take it in, and there's something in me that squirms. So I don't feel even though I believe it, like I believe what they say, I trust them, but there's something in me that goes, ooh, what is that? So that's why I squirm. Yeah. I don't know why that is. I should look into that or feel into that. So, Sherry says, I was shown they volunteered to come and help us in this shift. Yeah, I think you're 100% right, Sherry. Yeah, Mary says, I'm just being introduced to this, so it is a stretch for me as well, but very interesting. Yeah, I'm with you, Mary, totally. Dashini says, I'm very successfully integrating angels into my healing sessions here at the rehabilitation clinic. Yay, that is so awesome that where you're working, not even self-employed, but patients understand me very well. They are grateful I connect with them in the light of God. That is so awesome. And tell them to use that for healing. That is so awesome. Sishu says, I have a friend who went through deep meditation and says most aliens are demons trying to confuse us from seeking God as the ultimate truth. What do you think of that? I absolutely disagree. I 100% disagree with that. Demons are demons, and there is definitely negative energies, evil energies on the planet, and I believe that there is a consciousness that would choose to have power over others as opposed to grow within their own self. And that's how I would describe it, is that you have two pathways for evolution. One is to grow, to face yourself and to grow internally to become closer and closer to the divine, which is the path that we are taking. And then there's the other journey, which is, okay, rather than going through that difficult work of facing myself, instead, I want to try to grow through power over other people. And so that's how I would describe evil on the planet, is the desire to have power over others, and growing through that by trying to, well, in a bunch of different ways. So in any case, but no, these entities, energies, beings are coming to the planet, as the angels have described here, to help us, right? And to witness. Some of them just come to witness, to experience what we are. And the goal is to create an opening between humanity and themselves, right? To increase friendship. But it's almost like we're joining the world outside of Earth. It's almost like this passage, this shift that we're going through, opens the gateway for us to start having a relationship to beings outside of our own planet. And I think that's what this is about, that these have been like ambassadors or envoys who are here to then carry that relationship. Just through, some of it is, I think, through just observing us. And some of it is through being on our planet and figuring out what it's like to be here with us, right? So I think that's my interpretation of what they're saying. Yeah. So, yeah. So, but I think, and to make space for the people who do feel that, who feel like that, you know, that they're not to be trusted and things like that, and to hold space for them to have their own feelings and their own belief, because that is of meaning to them, right? People who whatever belief someone carries, there's something in it that is meaningful for them. Often it's a growth journey, right? Often it's showing them something internal about themselves. So just like for me, as I feel this inner like reluctance to share this, I know that's something in me I need to look at. So, all right. So let's go through the message and see what they say. So the first paragraph, they say, amongst yourselves lives to the endeavor of understanding representatives from many times and places. So this is basically saying they're here to understand these beings, and they're saying they're calling them representatives. So that's like ambassador, envoy, right? That they've come, that there's a purpose to being here. And they said that they're from many times and places, which to me says definitely like off-planetary beings, but it's also this idea of interdimensional beings, that one is a mind stretcher for me. But times and places. So interesting. Okay. They go on to say, amongst yourselves, they thrive in the times that are coming. So even though they've already told us that these beings are not moving forward into the new consciousness, but even so, they say that they still thrive, that they're here in and amongst ourselves, and they're still going to be thriving in the times that are coming, even though they're not making the shift. They say there are within and among humanity many races of beings, and races is by this I interpret that to mean non-planetary beings, peoples that are from other places we don't know about necessarily, or maybe we know something about, right? All have come for the understanding of what is this ascension, this time of great displacement, where awareness sweeps through into the new arrival of human consciousness. So I like this phrasing. So they say that they've come to understand what's happening. So this is a unique time in that we are shifting into a higher state of consciousness while incarnated. And my understanding is that is not something that is typically done. It's an unusual thing for that to happen. And so they're here to understand it, to understand our journey and to witness it, to see what we're going through and to have a memory of that. But they're describing it as a time of great displacement. And I love that word because displacement is like taking things from one place to another, which is what we're doing. We're moving from one state of consciousness to a higher state or different frequency of consciousness, right? But it also has a reference to water, and water is a reference to spirit. And water is displaced. When you put something like imagine you have a glass of water and you put something in it that's heavy that sinks to the bottom, you are displacing the water that used to be there. And the volume of the water goes up because it has to take up more space. It has to move somewhere else. And so I see this as this time of great displacement, that it's like it's like we are moving, and that movement moves the water. It moves spirit. And then they say where awareness seeps through into the new arrival of consciousness. So it's like through our own shifting, through our own movement inside of ourself, as we grow, as we heal, we are creating displacement of the water. We're moving that spirit, and it's seeping right into this new state of awareness. I just think it's a super cool visual. I can just imagine like it's within ourselves. We heal and we're moving the water, and that water has to go somewhere, and it's seeping into, right, the new arrival of human consciousness. Super cool. So they go on to say awareness, its time and place is rising. So awareness is on the rise. It is coming into presence. The divinity speaks through you. So this is really saying, what is this awareness? The awareness is divine presence. It is our divine awareness within us. And that divinity then speaks through us. So we are the conduit for that divinity. In these times, the arrival of the many has been made like a truce between nations. So they're saying that because of this great shift, more beings came, basically. So in these times, the arrival of the many, right? So because of these times, many different types of beings have come to this plane, to the earth, and has been made like a truce between nations. So the point of it, the reason is truce between us and them, between their planet or their race or whatever it is, right? So it is like an ambassador, right? A method and way for each kind of being to determine themselves a friend of humanity. So the role has been to come and to make friends with us. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they need us, but it means that they understand us and feel themselves closer to our experience and understand us. Yeah. A way for each to take part in your harmony. So in our process of becoming harmonious, which is what we're trying to do, and they're trying to take part in that, to witness it. We're trying to become more harmonious in the balance of our masculine and feminine energy, which is what we're doing in soul convergence, right? Which connects us, which brings us into the truth of our higher understanding. A way for each to take part in your harmony, a way for each to embrace what is friendship between yourselves and their own origins. We speak to this now, to the understanding that this comprehensive shift places between them and yourselves a period of durable hardship. So they're saying that we have been up until now cohabitating with all these different types of beings, whether we see them or not, right? They've been there, and they've been watching us, experiencing Earth, learning what it's like to be human, what it's like to be an earthling, right? But now we're going through this shift, and there'll be a period of hardship between us that we will know. And what that is we will no longer be able to hear them, that they will be disconnected from us as we shift. So the ones who are here on Earth. So they go on to say they have not. So why is that? They say they have not the same rhythm of countenance that you contain. So this is like your same way of being, the same rhythm. Everything is like, because everything with them about us, our soul, is a song. So they have a lot of musical metaphors that they use to describe us. And so the rhythm is like our soul song. What is our heartbeat? All of that. They have not the same rhythm of countenance that we contain. So what is that? What does that mean? They say they do not have the same feeble memory of their ancestry. So we have the veil. We don't remember really lives that much before this one or where we came from, but they do. They say they have within them a knowingness of whence they came. So they remember all of that. You yourselves have this lacking. Do not have an understanding about where and how far and where from you have come to interpret this domain. So we don't remember really, like some of you. Many of you probably have had at least a life or two on another planet. That's common, actually. And then especially among light workers, right? It's not an unusual thing, but that most of us have had most of our lives here on this planet. That's more typical because we're tied to the earth consciousness. So you yourselves have this lacking, right? And then they go on to say, they are experiencing the earth for the purpose of understanding yourselves. They are enduring the hardships of this time. So in other words, as the earth changes and we have environmental impacts and all this kind of stuff, they're here, they're in the thick of it. So as war happens, all this stuff, it affects them too. So they're going through the hardships. They say, and not in the same way that we are, because they're not human, but it still affects them. And like in terms of how that is, it probably depends on how they exist, right? They are living amongst, around, between, and within the earth. So amongst ourselves, so it could be like that they are existing at a slightly different frequency and we don't see them. Like those beings that I saw in Iceland. Like, how is it that I was able to see them in that moment? So I got the feeling like they're there all the time, right? But that we just don't see them unless we tune in and look with our third eye. So they're living amongst, around us, right? Between us, right? And within the earth. So they're on the earth, they're in the earth. So their way of existing is really different from ours, right? In realms seen and unknown, undisturbed. So in other words, some of you may be perceptive to that. Like on that day, I did see them. And there may be those of you, and there's another time when I went to Mount Shasta, I went to there's a garden there called the Peace Garden. And I meditated, the first time I sat down, first time meditating at Shasta. And I saw a woman come into my meditation, and she opened her arms like she was welcoming me in. And I thought that was cool. It's like, oh, that's neat. Like, what is that? And that's really all that happened. And afterwards I talked to my friend, and she told me that was the Lady of the Mountain, that she's a known thing. Like, apparently that if you go to Shasta and you meditate often, you will see the Lady of the Mountain, and she comes to welcome you. And I was like, that's cool, because then I'm welcome. That's really neat. You know what I mean? I thought it was kind of awesome. But my guess is that she is probably one of those beings that they're talking about, right? She's a representative of some sort who's there. So, and I know there's lots of stuff around like Lemuria and all of that. So I'm not going to go down that path here, but like, I know there's lots of different ideas about why is Shasta such an energetic place. So, and I don't know. And angels haven't really spoken to that, but I'm just saying, so that might be twice that I have seen beings. So sometimes they are seen, right? And then sometimes they're unknown, undisturbed. They are here in and amongst yourselves and often not seen. So it's not something that we see with our naked eye usually, or most often. They are here to uncover the vastness of what is available on this plane of existence, to understand the beauty and the greatness of the experience of being here, understanding, and I really like this part, so understanding the fruition of a soul within captivity. So here they're talking about what is the human journey? What has it been up until now? Understanding the fruition of a soul within captivity. So they're describing being in the earth school as being in captivity. They say the captive embrace on a plane that forces itself upon an awareness in the interest of greater development. So this is a super cool way of describing being on earth. In other words, they're describing the process we go through of confronting ourselves, where we move through our reality, right? And that reality forces itself on, like we feel like we're confronted. That's what they're trying to say. We're confronted with ourselves, a plane that forces itself upon an awareness. So in the interest of greater developments, this is what the Earth School has been. It's been, and so they're describing this as an unusual experience, right? And they call it a captive embrace, that we're held here. And I like that really references the fact that we are so guided and that we are held in the safety of the angels. So it is a captive embrace. We're held as captives of the Earth School, confronting ourselves in this 3D world so that we can learn about ourselves. Yeah, super interesting. And you know that as we move into the shift of consciousness, that is no longer the case, right? We are no longer tied to our karma in the new reality. Yeah, they go on to say, we speak to this dialogue between yourselves and they who are not from here. So here they're talking about the fact that some of us are connected to these beings as guides, that they speak to you. They say to the way in which you will separate in the near found separation. So how you will feel yourselves not entirely in the same dimension, as though two planes shifted and you are within one and they the other. So I think this is really important for some people to know that and understanding that we are just going through a process. So if you have felt like you have lost your connection recently, if you felt really disconnected recently, it is not this. The recent disconnection has been like as part of this awakening process, there's been work going on, it's like a grid that goes around the planet. And it's almost like they have to reset the grid. And that process messed with some of your connections. So if that happened, if you've been feeling like really, really out of it, if you can't heal your guides, if you try to connect and it's like crickets, that is probably what has been happening. And that should be better now. Like you should be coming back into normal connection, or what you're used to as connection. So if you've been feeling it, that is not what they're talking about. What they're talking about here is coming in the future. And by the way, I was going through the videos recently because I was creating a new playlist for you guys out of the old videos. And I saw in there was a message, and I forget, because at this point, there are like gazillions of messages on this channel. And there is a message from like a year ago where they talked about exactly that there was going to be this period of where we would be disconnected from our guides. So yeah, so I didn't have time to listen to it at the time, but I remembered once I saw the thumbnail, I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember it now. And they said this was going to happen. And I assumed, of course, because at the time I always assumed everything they said was going to happen like tomorrow, but it doesn't. It happens like 2 years later. So here we are a year later. And I think that is what we just have gone through. So if you want to know more about it, it's in the playlist. And you can tell by the thumbnail, it's about like, we will be disconnected from our guides. So yeah, so that's in there. But what they're talking about here is different. This is coming in the future after, I'm assuming this will be after the flash of light, right? That's going to come. Flash of light comes. We have this massive shift in awareness. And at that point, boom, where's my connection, right? Where did it go? If one of these beings is a close guide of yours, or even one of your guides, and you may be like, why can't I connect to them anymore? So here it is. Here's the answer. So, yeah. Okay. So then they say, where was I? Yeah. So they go on to say, we speak to this dialogue between yourselves and they who are not from here, to the way in which you will separate in the near found separation, how you will feel yourselves not entirely in the same dimension, as though two planes shifted and you are within one and they the other. We say that the time frame of this, so when is this going to happen, becomes certain and is not far off. So it's in the future. Right? But not far off. So they've already said that the flash of light is potentially coming soon. Angels speak soon, but soon, right? Sometime in the near future. They will stay within the experience of what has been. They will remain. They will not come along. So this is just like when I had the vision of those three beings in Iceland, and they said, we are staying here. We three are staying here, is what they said. They are not found in the new frame of humanity. They do not belong there. So they cannot evolve in the same way that we do. So they cannot move into the new state of consciousness. So then they say they are incomplete in that realm. They must remain within the shell of what has been. This is because, and the shell is like think about that, like not as in a shell that's empty, but think of it as like a container, that they have to stay in the container that's been created for them to inhabit and to stay on the earth plane for a long period of time. So they basically created a sort of incarnation for themselves. Right? Not like and some of them came in, a few as human, but the majority came in. They said the majority by far are not in human body, but they are incarnated in their own way. And that incarnation is a shell that holds them here. And so, but in order to do it, and I think that's because it is so darn dense here. How do they exist in a world that is so dense? And so I think they had to create a shell for themselves to do it. So they say this is because of how they incarnate. It is because of how they have tied themselves to this plane. So there's some sort of, in order to do it, in order to come here and be here for a long time, to exist here long enough to experience the earth, to be with us, to see what it is to be human, they needed to create some sort of a way of coming that created a shell around them. And that shell cannot evolve. And so that's my understanding of what this is. They must stay within the realm and domain of what is heavy. So then, in other words, the shell, they basically, the shell is built to stay in the density as it is today of what this experience of life here now as it is occurring. They will stay within this scope and plane. They go on to say, let it be revealed to yourselves, not often, they cannot journey in the same way. So, and the not often was an unusual little blip in there. And I was trying to figure out, what do they mean by not often? So let it be revealed to yourselves, not often, they cannot journey in the same way. And so my first read of that was that this is unusual, that they cannot journey in the same way. So that they're saying basically that it's not often that, but it could be either this is not often revealed to you, or it could be that it is not often that they can't journey in the same way that you can. And I have a feeling that it's both, actually, that it's both, that it has not yet been revealed to us, this concept, that it's unusual, that it's not revealed to us usually. And then also that it's not usual that they can't journey in the same ways that we do. So I think it's being like the angels, meaning two things at once. Then they go on to say, they cannot be made into new form like yourselves. They cannot reshape their consciousness while incarnated. And I think that is super important, because that is what defines this shift in consciousness and why it's so unusual and so interesting to all of the other beings of the universe, is because we are reshaping our consciousness while incarnated. And that is, I think, a very unusual thing. So, and they're saying they don't have that ability. And the reason for it is because they're not part of the earth. They're not of the earth, right? They're here. They're like visitors in a shell that protects them from this density. So then they go on to say they must stay within the framework created for themselves for this relationship to earth as it has been. And then they go on to say upon their demise or removal from this plane. So in other words, they have some sort of death that can happen, or removal. So there's some way that they actually have to be extracted from the planet, right? Then they say when that happens, their shared understanding will shift and embodiment will take new form, and they become a new friend to the human. So in other words, after they die, they can reincarnate, they can come back into the new earth. So they just can't make the evolution while they're embodied. They have to exit and then re-enter, right? So, and then it will take new form, and they become a new friend to the human. They become a new friend in permanence. So in other words, in the new state of awareness, and they've said this later in the message, we develop awareness of them, like that it's like we can see them. And I think everybody is kind of expecting this, that why is it that all of a sudden the government is releasing all these videos of Air Force people seeing flying ships and stuff like that? Like, why is that all of a sudden coming out now after years and years and years of trying to discredit all of that and keeping it all secret? So I think we're all thinking that probably they're trying to prepare us, to get to shift the human collective into the acceptance that these beings exist. So that's my perspective anyways. So the next paragraph, they say, but not while they remain within this earthly construct. So they can't shift while they remain within this earthly construct. For the time being, they must remain within the context of what they are, and cannot reform into the newly defined realm that humanity strives to reach. Then they go on, here they shift, and now they're speaking to those beings themselves, to the beings who are here who cannot shift. They're saying to those, because some of them are in human bodies, and many of them are not, but they're speaking to them anyways in this message. So maybe they get it. Who knows? Maybe they have YouTube. They say, thus we say, for those of you who feel tied in permanence to these ancestral roots. So it's really more to the humans who are embodied, who feel very, very tied to those off-planet roots, right? To other places in your ancestry, who feel more belonging there than you do to humanity, right? Who find themselves inured to the streams of consciousness that are coming through. So in other words, as these flashes of light, these are not the blue light that some people have been talking about. These are different. These lights that are coming to the planet, they are, and they have not come yet. Just to clarify, but there may be some people, and I think there are not that many, who when those lights come through, that even though they are beings at a higher frequency, because they have this difference in the way that they are made, they may not be able to receive that divine presence in that way, right? Who feel themselves growing distant from what is new earth. So it's like that separation starts to take place. Do not fear. So if that happens, if this is you, if it reaches you, and if this is you, and they say, don't fear, your time will be well spent. Like I said, I think this is an extreme minority of people, extreme minority. So most likely, even if you have had lives on other planets, you are still going to experience the shift in consciousness. You have enough human in you to go through this evolution. So this is, like I said, is a very, 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 very small percentage. Your time will be well spent, they said. Your time here will be well worth the investment. You're here to serve yourselves and all beings, to draw into this realm the light of who you are, of your plane of experience, to draw to this earth the blessings of what is you, to let it be felt among those who cannot journey to the new realm. So that's another reason for them to stay. Like the staying, it sounds like it's just not possible for them to shift, but then there's blessings in that too, is that their energy can be part of the healing for those who are still at the current state of consciousness, that it can be, they're holding an energy that can be helpful and transformative to those people, right? To stay within the realm that is you. Going on, they say, they're continuing to speak to these people or beings. And so I think they're speaking to the beings who are non-physical or that we don't see as well. They say, we say this far-reaching experience of being on earth at this time of shift leaves within you an indeterminate focus point without the knowledge of where you shall be placed. So it's disorienting. In other words, as the lights come through, as the planet splits, and sort of we have these two different experiences of the old state of consciousness and the new state of consciousness. There's probably a feeling for them of being like, okay, where am I going? What is happening? Like not being sure where they're going to be placed. They say, without the knowing of where you have purchased. So where are they going to land? We say, do not fear what arrives here. So in other words, it can be a disorienting experience for them. Do not fear your own journey. Know the paths may separate, and there is this. And you are amongst those who are settled in friendship. So in other words, when they say you are amongst those, so you're being held by those who are protecting you. You're being held amongst those who are settled in friendship and will guard your journey. So the angels are all around them, helping them. They say, who will watch over you, who will ensure your passage is safely kept, who subscribes to the thoughts of your own purpose. So they're going to help them not only through the experience, but also help them in living their purpose for being here. And who lead you in the direction of the greatest benefit to yourself and to all you serve. Okay, so now here they shift and go back to speaking to those who are moving on, which is the majority of us, by far, the vast majority of, especially those of you who are here, this group, to us, right? Who are interested in these messages, who are working on ourselves, who are, like this speaking is to us. They say there are those who journey on to the new passage who will make way, part consciousness, and become what is separated from this journey, who will find within themselves the light of who they are and become this. I love that phrasing, is a description for what will happen when the flash of light comes, this wave of light that's going to come across the planet. They say we will find the light inside of us and become this. So it's almost like it moves through us and then we were able to hold it. And that's the difference. The light will pass through everything, every being, every part of the earth. But who can maintain the light? Who can hold the light? And that's the difference. So it's who will find within themselves the light of who they are and become this. So it's like it ignites a spark inside of us when that flash of light comes. And so we see who we are, and then we are able to hold it. They are staying in the frequency of the light and will remain as such for the duration of their journey. So that is speaking to all of you who are human or in a human body, right? Who are actively pursuing your spiritual path. Yeah. So they go on to say, know that this apparent separation takes place. Have the awareness of this in the knowing of your own soul. Some are here to hold and bear witness to the transition, to hold within themselves the great voyage you are becoming. So that is one of the reasons why these beings may have come, is to see it happen, right? To watch it from the earth plane, to come down here and to be in the middle of it and to see as you go through this process of shifting in the conscious, to shift your consciousness while incarnated, to watch it, right? Then they say they are here to yield a memory of this experience. And I really like that idea of yielding a memory, because it implies that the memory is something of value, that it is like a crop yield, in a farm, you yield your crop. You have, what is the thing that you take from this that is of value that you want to keep? And so they're going to yield a memory, and that memory is something that is shared among the all and the everybody, right? So that is I think a very interesting choice of words there. They are here to yield a memory for everybody, right? Of this experience, to have and hold an understanding of what is in view, to watch it. So cool. So who are these beings? Great question. And why? And are they among you? Are they human? There are some who are in an embodiment that is familiar to yourselves. They're saying, yep, there are some who look like humans, right? Who take on form that is human. So they look like a human, but they're not a human, right? But the majority are not like that. They are whole unto themselves, right? They are separated from humanity in its current knowledge. They exist in the earth, around yourselves, nearby. They exist in this realm. So I think there are going to be a lot like those three beings that I saw in Iceland, or that the lady of the mountain that I saw in Shasta. that they're close enough in vibration that you can see them with your third eye, right? And some of you may be very attuned to them because they may be your guides. So you may feel, see, hear, experience them in a much more present way, right? They exist in this realm, but they're not physical in a human. Most of them, by far the majority, are not physical in a human body or in a body that we can see. Yeah. Or maybe they exist in a body, but they're not anywhere that we see them. Maybe they have ways, I don't know, maybe ways of keeping themselves hidden. I don't know. And I haven't, like I said, I don't know a whole lot about this stuff. So some of you are going to know a lot more about this than I do. And I'm sure you'll probably answer that very question in the comments. So, okay. But the main thing, they say they exist, in this realm, they cannot journey onward. Then they go on this I asterisk as important. They say to know those who are deeply interacting with these realms, those who find fellow in friendship, whose genealogy is connected to these beings, may find and feel themselves separated. So this is the important thing I think that needs to be heard, is that there are probably many of us who have connections to these beings and who count them as among our guides and hear guidance from them. And that could be many people. So, and so, like I said, it might not be all your guides. It might be one of your guides, or for some of you, it may be a primary guide. And that would be because potentially, they said who find fellow and friendship, maybe your genealogy is connected. So maybe some part of you has lived maybe you lived some lifetimes on their planet, right? So that you may find and feel yourself separated in the trust that flows with them toward their own shift. So as you feel the trust in yourself and the trust in the divine, as you open and allow these frequencies to come in and take root inside your body, as that happens, you may start to feel yourself more and more distant from those voices, right? They say they may feel they have left family. So if you are one of those people, you may feel like you have left family behind. And boy, do I know what that feels like, because I remember one time, on my journey, I was told that I was losing some of my guides. Some of my guides were being replaced. And I went through real grief, as if I was losing real, like, family members of my physical family. Like I was very sad about it. It was this feeling like, oh my gosh, these beings who have been with me all this time, and now they're not going to be with me anymore, And so it's a real thing. It can be really upsetting. And so I think that's why they want to tell us, is that they don't want anything to throw us off our path, off of this great shift, to be aware that you might feel this. You might feel that you have left some members of your family behind, which are these particular guides. They say been left alone, as though quiet endeavors to encompass what has been their connection to guidance. So it's almost like the voice gets quiet, right? That quiet encompasses, quiet surrounds it, and you can't hear it anymore. They can't journey on, or that kind of connection to guidance. So I think it is really important, because it's just like, that was a very it really was like I had to go through a grieving process when that shift happened. When I said some guide stepped out, new guide steps in, and I know that happens at times. It's just that I was aware of it, and I was really sad about it. All right, they go on to say, we speak to them, to those who will fear the freedom they are seeking, who will find within their heart a diagnosis of themselves as further from home. So, and that's how it can feel. It can be like, wow, I left home to go to this new place, and where are my guides here? Yeah. We speak today to them to know that the separation is temporary. There will be those who come to earth, as it will be known, but they must incarnate separately. So in other words, it doesn't mean that you won't have any guides, even if that is your primary guide. All it means is that they have to leave this plane physically. They have to disincarnate, however they do that, and then reincarnate into the new reality, right? So, but there may be a period where you don't hear them, is what they're saying. And you may have, in that time period, you may have other guides that step forward. They're not going to leave you without guidance. That's for sure. So in one way or another, you'll be covered. But just know that there may be certain voices you're not hearing anymore for a while. And they say that there will be those who come to earth, that will be known, but they will be, the new earth, there will be those that come to the new earth, but they must incarnate separately. They cannot evolve through the process that you are enduring. They cannot move in the way and the capacity that you will experience. They are not of earth. So this is why, right? They are not of her roots. They cannot feel her movement. You are this. You evolve as she does.
they must expire in the lives they've chosen and reignite upon the surface at a time in the future to come again. So those of us who are here, we are we are in human bodies, and we are experiencing a life as human, and we are tied to the earth. So we are like the neurons of the earth. And so the earth evolves, we evolve because we are with her. So this is a process she is going through. And that's why we are able to do this while incarnated. But they don't have the same roots. Their roots are in some other place, right? So they have to leave and then come again, and be basically reborn, right? And then they say, the duration of the quiet that may be experienced by those who attune to these vibrations may be some time, even years. So it really depends on when does that particular being decide to leave. They may find that there's more for them to do by staying at this current frequency, the current state of awareness. And then so they may decide to wait. And like I said, they might be years before they then leave, and then potentially they would have to choose if they're going to reincarnate back on Earth again at the higher state of awareness, in the new Earth. So then they say there may be a quieting of these conversations. It may be months, right? It is not known. For each individual with whom you are connected must journey onward and return to this plane as is their choosing, in the new state of awareness. So it's really, they have free will too, right? They get to choose if they're going to come back again into the new Earth. And so they said it could be as short as months. It could be very short, right? It could be they choose to go when you go and then come back and be rebirthed. So it could be days, right? Or however long it takes you to make the full transition to the new state of consciousness, I would think, because they probably have to leave one. And I think for us, it may be a process to go through this. That's why there's going to be 3 waves of light, right? It might be a process for us to achieve that higher state of consciousness. All right. So then they say, in the process of their arrival, they will come as they are, in greater friendship with humanity. So in other words, when they arrive in the new Earth, then it's like the avenues of friendship are wide open. So it's, I think that we will be able to see them physically in the new state of awareness. There will not be the same divide, they say, that separates you from those you have known, from those guides or from those beings that you've known before. There will be friendship among people of all races, right? Interplanetary beings become known. Thus, the times of interdimensional communion take on new form. So here's the interesting question that I had is so I always thought of these beings as like coming to Earth like on a ship or something like that. You know, and like we see these big ships that they have videos of, and so I always think they travel here. But I think it's a thing where if they're going to stay for a long period of time, then they choose to incarnate here, and they incarnate in different ways. So that's kind of how I'm understanding it. That can they just come for a visit? Probably, but this is pretty dense here. And how physical can they be? Right? How long can they stay for a long visit? So anyways, that's kind of how they don't really address it in the message, but that's how I understand. Those of you who have studied this a lot more, who channel these beings, maybe you have a better understanding and can share it in the comments. So, then they say, they come in greater friendship. There will not be the same divide. Let's see, there will be friendship among people of all races. Interplanetary beings become known. Thus, the times of interdimensional communion take on new form. So this is really like interplanetary, interdimensional. It's all of it, right? It's like we become members of a much larger community outside of planet Earth. Yeah. So they go on to say, your own reality is shifting to be inclusive of those that come in friendship, who harbor the greatest gift of peaceful expression, of harmony between yourselves. So they're really saying this is about making friends with other species. Yeah. An offering, and this is really interesting, an offering of the wisdom and the means you are yearning for interdimensional access. So they're bringing us the wisdom of, so I think and then they say the means you are yearning for. I think here means like method, like teaching us how to do something. So I think from this that they are coming and they will teach us how to do interdimensional or off-planetary travel. That's my guess. Yep, it's out there now. I have said it. That's what I think. So So and here they say an offering of the wisdom and the means you are yearning for interdimensional access, for the understanding of what is earth and what is form. So that is interesting as a comment around the means, like how do we move from earth to some other place? How do we get off earth easily? That I think we have to have a better understanding of what is earth and what is form. That's very interesting. So I think it'll have to do with something to do with what they show us or what they teach us. They go on to say, we bring to you this concept of separating in the time of connectivity. So I like that. They're saying that even in this process of shifting to the new consciousness where we're going to have unity and connectivity, there is always duality on the earth because that is how we create. So there's the concept of separating even in the context of connecting, right? We're connecting with each other, but we're losing our connection to these beings temporarily. Right? They say separation has yet a home within the reality of this divergence. The divergence meaning the movement to this new state of awareness. Know within your heart that homeward you are bound despite the appearance of disconnect. So this really does bring us closer to ourselves, even though some of us might feel like we have lost connection to some of our guides. Not all will feel the separation. They say most will never know. And I think this is because there may be times that you may have a guide. Like it may be hard to discern who you are hearing. It may be hard to discern. You may be hearing multiple voices and think they're all the same guide. So you may lose one of those voices and then not even be aware of it and still think that everything is the same as usual. So some of you are very attuned to different energies or your guides show up. Like it just depends on how you're wired. You know, how do you experience your own channeling? Is some of us are very, very in the body, very, that we have very sensory experience and some not so much. So they're saying that, most will never know that this has happened. Most will not feel the distance that has grown between yourselves and they who have offered presence. They will become known in the new reality as they come into form in that time and space. And your reality is changed for the better by their presence. So let's go in and see what you guys, I know you guys are chatting. I want to see what you guys are saying here. Let's see here. Where are we? Let's see. Joe is saying next week is going to be cold in the Northwest. Yes, it really is, isn't it? I know. I've been thinking about that too. Sherry says, I have had experiences but my son has a nightly visits and interacts with some different races. Whoa, they are like family to my son and so much love. Wow, isn't that interesting? So I wonder so that might be important for him to know this, that if they are, that it's only if the ones that are incarnated here, right? So if they're just visitors, then, or, however he's tuning into them, it may not affect him, but it might. So it'd be good to know that this is a possibility. Linda says, yep, ready. You were ready for it. Awesome. Good morning to the, yep. So thrilled you can make it to your live again. Yay. Here we go. And you're saying, yes, some of us are thinking, will I shift into the north or get left behind? And the angels have said that pretty much, as long as you're not one of these beings, which I think is like very, 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 very small percentage. So pretty much, I think, assume that you, that what they were saying about not being able to does not apply to you. Assume that, unless you know for sure it's not the case. But for most of us in human bodies, if you are on a spiritual path, you are open to the energy and it will shift you. It's about, they said the main thing that distinguishes those people who will not be able to receive the energy and those who do is if somebody is clinging very, very hard to the way things were. If someone is in the experience of loss and is in strong resistance to what's coming because they're trying very hard to recreate what was. And if that happens, they will not be, it's like it's got their back turned to it and they're clinging, they're clenching, right? Which closes them and the light can't come in. So, and that's not going to be any of you, right? It's like you guys are signing up, ready. You've got your ticket already to the ascension. You're like, let me in. I'm ready. So yeah. But that's the distinction. And they've advised us to have as much compassion as possible for those people who are in that state, who are really feeling the loss and really in the experience of loss and regret about what's lost. And they said to understand that it's a really painful experience for them. Yeah. Krista says, this makes me, I'm sorry, I read that already. Thank you, Krista. All right, here we go. And let me just scroll down. You're saying, Sherry says, Anne, I was shown they volunteered to come and help us in this shift. Yep, that is so cool. Mary says, I am just being introduced to this. Yep, I'm sorry, I read that already. And here we go. Oopsie, I lost a page. Where was I? Here we go. Will our families shift with us? We will all be still living on the earth. So you could, in the same household, have some people who are receptive to the energy and some people who are not. And understand that this process will happen over time, but that is actually on purpose, because what will happen is that those people who have not been receptive to the energy may see your light, may see the light of others who have accepted this energy. And they could even start seeing angels. Like they could start seeing things that challenge them, that open them, that want them to move, that cause them to want to move, to shift. And so then they will be seeking help. And that's why all the light workers are here, to help them. That's why you're here, right? To help them make the shift. So don't worry about feeling like we're not meant to push anybody. We're not meant to, everybody's meant to have their own journey and come to their own awareness and their own choice that they want to, right? That they want to shift, that they want to move into this new frequency. But so yes, it is possible in a family, but that doesn't mean that you will be living in two different places. It just means that your experience of life will become different, right? So you can still help your family to shift after you have shifted, I think is the message. Yeah. And then, yeah, Pat, I know that's you, Pat. Thank you. And then Linda says, interesting that it lights a spark within us. This is deja vu for me, as I've always had the intuition or message of light, a spark within self that expands through me to help others discover the light within themselves. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Yes, I think that is a beautiful way of seeing that healing journey. That is so cool. And how you impact other people. Yeah. Dashini says, hey, if I was able to teach them how to ground into the center of the earth, haha, I cannot because I have no connection to any guides whatsoever, but I guess grounding them could do the trick to take them with us. No, because I think the ones that are here that cannot move forward, it's something about how they're incarnated, almost like they called it a shell. And so I guess I would think of it almost like they have a spacesuit on, right? Like you can't really ground that. Like, I mean, that's the best way for me to think of it, is that there's something around them, the way that they've incarnated here. It's almost like they've grown a shell and it protects them from the density. I don't know. I mean, I don't, like I said, I have very little background to go on here. So I'm guessing, I'm throwing darts, but to me, that's what makes sense. I don't know. And the angels have repeatedly spoken of the void. I remember to have crossed a void to be able to throw out that umbilical cord into earth so I could go down and take my mom receive me. So these beings could also have to cross that void in order to become physical. Yes, but my understanding is that moving into that void or that shift, we're doing it because we're part of the earth. And if you're not part of the earth, if you're not literally of the earth, then it doesn't work. That's my understanding of the message. Yeah. Sherry says it's important that our spirituality and our technology stay balanced and we remain in touch with our emotions. 100%. I totally agree. Let's see. And let's see here. Lalanea says, I'm so ready for this. It's been a long journey. Oh my gosh. Yes, I can relate to that one for sure. And I am too. Yeah. Ready, ready, ready. All right, you guys, thank you so much for going through this message with me. Like I said, this is not my usual lane, and I don't have as much depth of knowledge about this stuff as a lot of you are going to have. So I really welcome you to add your awarenesses to the comments and to share what you know and how do you receive this message, right? Because like I said, I haven't done as much learning about it. I don't really know. I just know that the few experiences I've had and then what the angels have said. So I really invite you guys to, if this is meaningful to you, to receive it. And for the rest of us, it's a really interesting education. All right, you guys, I hope you have an amazing weekend. Sending you lots of love, and I'll see you guys next Friday live. Bye, you guys.